Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, or whenever you are listening to this. I always feel pulled to do these when I have a lot on my mind. And some of you seem to really like these, so this is who that's for. I know not everybody likes these, but I know there are some. And here's the thing. I don't ever look at how many views my videos get, ever. And I'm probably a bad YouTuber because I think that that's what people look like and look at and base what their upcoming videos are about. But I'm not that YouTuber. I don't do that because this is more for, I don't want to say me, it's for you, but I don't ever want to get caught up in that game of how many likes you get, how many viewers you get, and stuff like that. So, but anyway, I have so much on my mind tonight. Oh my goodness. My mind's just reeling, and there's so many things I'd like to talk about, but I'm going to stay towards the positive, and I am going to talk about, so the video, so I went to the yurt, well, the tent, but the yurt tent, and I just want to tell people too, I know a lot of people said, can we see that advertisement? Because, that wasn't right. There was nowhere to sleep. And, it was kind of, I guess I didn't look too far into it. But yeah, I don't want to say it was false advertising, but it really didn't matter because the experience was still amazing. And that's what I want to focus on. So just even having one day to myself and just to be out in nature. And I want to talk about, I think I'm going to I don't know, title this fear or something like that. Because people keep saying, well, weren't you afraid to stay there? And I know people say, oh, aren't you afraid of van life, to be there alone? And aren't you afraid? I just do so much stuff. And the answer is yes. In the past, I would have said yes, check, yes, check, yes, check. But I am going to tell you, the more I face my fears, the less fearful I am. Okay? The more I face my fears, the less fearful I am. And I hope to pass it on to you. So again, besides the yurt just being a tent, that was fine. The experience was just, the land was so beautiful. I saw a monarch, and I remember when I grew up, we had a cabin. We saw monarchs all over. And, I just learned from you guys in the comments that the monarch was just put on the endangered species list. How can the monarch be put on the endangered species list? I mean, it is unfathomable to me. And somebody wrote me that the milk thistle, because, and it's funny, now I look back that's where I'd see them most, that there aren't really any of them. And I said in the video before that the universe listens. So when I showed up, listen, nothing is an accident. Nothing everything leads into something else. And that's what I want to talk about fear, is that you don't have to be afraid because everything unfolds the way it's supposed to. And so you giving your energy to being fearful is just wasting that energy that you could put towards something else or something positive. So when I showed up and he was talking about how he had this whole field for the pollinators. I mean, I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And then I saw the monarchs, and I can't tell you, it was just like transformative, even for a whole day, just to be in that space. And listen, I was only 45 minutes away from where I live. So away from like the city or, quote unquote, the city. And I'll take the yurt laying on the ground for what I experienced. And that's the thing too, why I don't have that video now is because this is the first time that I used the vlogging camera, and I'm using the new editing software. So it's going to take me a while to edit that. So hopefully I'm hoping next Monday I'll have this one up. And you have to realize, like, I'm by myself, so it's only me filming. It's only me editing. It's only me doing everything. It's funny how people are like, why do people make money on YouTube? Well, because it's a lot of work, but it's work that I am totally enjoying. The minute I got home, so I'll tell you about the talk that I had with the guy that owns it, but the minute I got back, I dropped off my oops at my mom's so I can charge that. And right from there, I went to the library to upload from my SD card on my computer to start editing. And I was in the thick of it. But then I wanted to go work out, so I went to Orange Theory, which I love, love, love. And then I had to go to work. They wrote me last night and asked me if I would work tonight because they are so short-staffed. Anyway, the only reason why I stay there is because I know when I am, that I have an end to this. And a lot of people there don't, and that's why they quit. But anyway, so talking about fear. And somebody asked me how I deal with my anxiety. And I will tell you, there was a time, and you can ask my mom, it was like 3 years ago, maybe. I had such high anxiety, I couldn't do anything. The minute I opened my eyes, I was fearful. Like, like you could say on a scale from 1 to 10, the minute I opened my eyes and I realized I was awake, that, like, fear, which I think is anxiety, well, for me, that was it. I don't know, that's how it manifested, was at a 10. And I tried everything. I tried meditation. I went to a Buddhist temple. Asked my mom, I brought her with me. We went to a Buddhist temple. I'm like, that has to, like, give me peace. I tried everything. And then I went to a therapist, and she said, Tracey, you don't have to live like this. And, I openly talk about me taking, it's Lexapro, but it's called escitalopram. I believe that's the generic form of it. I take 10 milligrams a day. And for me personally, that like evened me out. I didn't realize, because it takes a while for, medications to work. And so I think it was like about a month in, I was like, oh my God, wait a minute. I'm not ruminating on anything. I'm not waking up in high anxiety. And first of all, it was the fear of being judged, of having to be on medication, which is silly because it's a brain chemistry. It has something to do in your body. It is nothing that you should be embarrassed about or fearful of. And I'm not saying that that's the answer for you, but because sometimes it takes a while to get the right medication, the right amount. But for me, it happened on the first try. And I still take it. And I tell you what, I'm kind of afraid to go off it at any point because it has been so life-changing for me. And so, that was something I was fearful of. And I was fearful of, like, ever telling people. Like, I would never tell anybody. And listen, I've just told, I told even before, like, thousands of people that I'm on it. And because I want to let you know that there is nothing to be ashamed of. And I'm not just talking about medication. I'm talking about anything in your life. It's funny because I was thinking to myself, I don't think anybody could ever blackmail me with anything. Like, I don't know if somewhere they found some like naked pictures of me or who knows what, whatever. Listen, I was just talking to somebody tonight. I said, I sold vibrators. I was the first person ever on national TV to sell vibrators, and that was like 3.5 years ago. You can't blackmail me because here's the thing. If you put it out there yourself, then how could anybody ever blackmail you? I am not afraid to expose myself, obviously, I guess, to the world. Well, not the world, but the small cluster of people. And I think that's it, that if you tell your truth, that, nobody could ever hold anything over you, or what would you be fearful of coming out if you just owned yourself. And listen, we all have a life. We all have a background. We all have a past. We all make mistakes. And I actually have something coming up, and I will be talking about it. And I have no fear about it. I did before, but again, I think all the support that I get from everyone just pushes me to just expose myself more, because I know there are people who are waiting for someone else to do that first. And then they're like, you know what? It's okay for me to say this. It's okay for me to step into this truth. And there's nothing wrong with it. And so going back to the fear, and I came up talking to this guy tonight, and and I was talking to the pharmacist. I'll go back to that. And then I'll go back to the tent, the yurt/tent. So I was talking to the pharmacist tonight, and I call him Party Mark just because he's a younger guy and he's just fun. And we were just talking about people complaining and we're short-staffed, very stressful situation. And I said, that's why I do what I do. I said, like going up in that thing coming this Sunday and whatever. It's not that I'm not fearful, but I said, seeing my sister passed away at 42 in hospice, my brother-in-law from a brain tumor. My sister had cervical cancer at 42. That's how she passed away in hospice. My dad from congenital heart failure in hospice. And my brother, 2 years ago, hospice, colon cancer. And then my sister's in an assisted living home, and she had strokes when she was 62, and now she's 68, and she'll never get out, and I'm the one that takes her out. And when I go there, like I said, it just makes me every time realize, just face those fears and do what you got to do, because I said, because we deal with people who take a plethora of medications. Some people are taking like 20 medications, like whatever. And if that's you, I mean, I'm not knocking it, but what I'm saying is that if I'm doing things that like excite me or fill me with joy or like help me live my life, I said I would rather go down in, this hang gliding thing or whatever and die instantly than have to realize, that I have to be in hospice or I have to be, in an assisted living home. But that's from my personal experience. Do you know what I mean? That's where I'm coming from. So when you watch me and you see me do all these things and you're like, I could never do that, you have to remember that my story is what motivates me. And so you may not have a story like that. And so let's say you're starting from like now. And you want to say go out and make an adventure no matter how big or how small. And so I'm going to circle back to like the yurt. And I'm saying you don't have to do these grandiose things like I've done. Like that, my brother dying, I think just kind of pushed me over the edge. And like I said, seeing my sister all the time in the assisted living home, it was like, you know what? I'm not waiting around for anything. I'm just not waiting around for life to happen to me. I'm going to take charge and I'm going to make life happen. And even tonight, even under the stress, there's a girl that works at the pharmacy. And she's always so mean and just so bitter. And, there's me like, do. And it is true. You are in control of your own happiness. Like, nobody can bring me down because I'll just be like, okay, yep, onwards, And I just know that, everything will work out the way it's supposed to. I trust in the universe. I trust in God, if that's what you want to call it. I trust in just things unfolding the way they're supposed to. I just don't resist that anymore. And I think that that's what causes the fear. Because we resist what we think we can control, but we're totally not in control of it. And so there's a point where you just like let go. And, I was just talking to this guy tonight too about, how, people were saying like, I'm working at the pharmacy for $17. Listen, as a paralegal, I work for more than double that amount. I've worked for, I've made a lot of money in the past, but, and you know how you work because, and listen, I get it, you have to feed your family, you have to pay the bills. And one of the big thing is you have to have health insurance, and it keeps us pigeonholed in this fear. And there was somebody else that just wrote me a comment and said, I'm in the health field. I understand. I'm burnt out, but I'm afraid to get out of it because here's the thing. It's what you know, and it's what you make the most money at. And that was my fear of leaving the legal field. Like, this is what I've done most of my life. I've tried to break out throughout, that's what all that was for. Like, being a makeup artist and being a tattoo artist and, doing all that. But like a steady job with, benefits and healthcare and stuff was the paralegal job. And it finally came to the point, and like I said, it was when my brother died. That was like the breaking point for me. Like, I do not care, put me in an old home, if something happens to me, whatever. I am not going to be afraid anymore of all this bullshit that society puts on us. So anyway, that's where that fear stopped, and having a house. I raised my daughter. I was a single mom since she was 1. She's 21 now. I raised her. She's I raised an amazing human. And so I'll go back to the yurt. So, okay, I was only there for seriously a day and a half. I didn't get there till 3. You can't get in until 2. So I was there on Sunday and met the guy. We talked for a while. Very interesting. He's 65. He's raising peaches and apricots, and he has a whole garden. But he's the only one that has learned, and he's not a horticulturist or anything, how to raise them in a cold climate. And he said, he's very spiritual, very godly. And he said, I feel like it was just given to me. And he reached out to someone in Idaho, and they shared information with them. And he said, I just kept trying stuff, and it just worked. And then at the end when I was leaving, so then I was there all day Monday, and then Tuesday, I was going to leave. And I stayed in the van on Tuesday night. And he said, Tracey, come see me in the orchard before you leave. And I said, okay. So I went to the orchard, and he's working on a new another building or whatever it is for the peaches and the apricots and stuff. And this isn't going where you think it's going. So we're talking about the peaches, the apricots, how he got into this, stuff like that. And then he said to me, well, my wife and I are getting divorced, so I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to keep this. And that was out of left field for me. I'm okay. I mean, and with me, nothing surprises me. And it's weird because in very stressful situations is when I'm most calm. And it's funny how people share things with me. That's why I became a life coach. I would have people in my makeup chair, and they would start talking about their abusive husband. And I'm like, how do I deal with this? How? And that's why I did life coaching. But life coaching helped me more than I think it helped me help anybody else. But, just going to school helped me even for myself. And so when people tell me intricate stuff that they probably don't tell anybody else, I'm surprised for a split second. And then it's funny that it's yep, okay. Yep, he wants to talk. And he's like, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to keep all this. And I said, well, what about your kids? Is there anybody interested in it to pass it down to him. He's like, well, maybe my youngest daughter, but I don't know. He goes, so I'm doing all this work and I don't even know if I'm going to be able to keep it. But, and he goes, I just trust that it's a God thing. And again, I use God, universe, source, whatever, all in the same thing. Whatever you want to call it, it all is just life working together. And he just said, I just know that I just keep going and it'll figure itself out. And I'm like, that is exactly right. You just keep moving forward and trusting that everything is unfolding the way it's supposed to. And that you don't have to fear anything. And if you face those fears head on, if you don't let them paralyze you, then they don't mean anything. Just like I said, me being blackmailed, well, I would be paralyzed if somebody said, oh my gosh, I know that you sold vibrators and I'm going to tell everybody. Well, guess what? I already told everybody. So go ahead, tell everybody. I already own that. It's part of my life. I own it. I own my whole life. I own up to everything that I've done, every mistake I've done, everything. And I always wonder, we were talking about this tonight too, we got pretty deep. And, growing up Catholic, like what I was always taught was the only person that can judge you is God. So that when you die, that, God's like, yeah, you're good enough to get in, whatever. But yet, how come so many people are judging people here on earth? And they got their own shit that God needs to deal with. And that's the thing. I just don't judge anybody because I don't care. I got my own shit. So you can't blackmail me because I own all that shit. I own all my shit. Every mistake I've made, every sin I've done, everything else. And it's all have made me who I am. And guess what? I really, 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 really finally at 56 like who I am. And I think it's because I don't have any fear anymore of anybody being able to hold anything against me. Because I own it. It's mine. You can't blackmail me. You can't, taunt me. You can't do anything. Because I get it. Yeah, I did that. Yeah, maybe it was wrong, but that's what happened at that time in my life. And I'm not fearful of it anymore. I can own up to it. I'm not the same person. We never stay the same. And that's why you won't ever, when you have friends in high school and, growing up and whatever, and you have a falling out and you just move on and, you have a husband and things don't work out. And that's what I want you to know too. The fear of being held in a place because you're being threatened is never a place to stay. Just own up to it. Made a mistake. I didn't know who this person was. Things are different now. They're not the same person. I'm not the same person. And it's okay to let that go. There's no fear. That job sucks. Let it go. And it's so funny too. Somebody said, yeah, leave a job, because they were saying with Walgreens how much it sucks. It does suck. And, and somebody said, yeah, leave a job like that because there's so many other jobs out there now that you can go to. I am telling you, okay, Tracey Tischler, if you've watched my videos in the past, I have a 2-year, I have a 4-year, I have a plethora of other experience. And on Indeed, I have my resume up there. And, people can reach out to you. Hey, we think you'd be great for this job. Oh, we think you'd be perfect for this job. Blah, 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 blah. I have written back to people who said I would be perfect for their job probably 10 times and have not gotten one of those jobs. And I've applied for like 30 jobs, have not gotten one of those jobs. So if you're applying and you're doing the same thing, people are reaching out to you and then not hiring you for the job, that's me. That's me. And before I would feel bad about it, I'm like, yeah, I didn't want that job anyway. You don't deserve me. And you know what? The right thing will come along. And it'll all be okay. It's funny, the audio cut me off, so I guess that's the time to say goodnight, Gracie. So, goodnight, Gracie. Go out and make an adventure, no matter how big or how small. You don't have to sell everything and move into a van. I did that. You don't have to do that. And go call someone you love. And as Joy says, tell them that you love them. And don't you dare forget that you're magic. All right? Okay. It cut me off again. Okay, now's the end. See you in the next one. Or hear you in the next one. Bye.